where the campfire light meets the dark of night. Mysterious creatures move in the shadows. To some, they remain the subjects of folklore, but those who have encountered them know they are real. Hi everybody, I'm Jeff with Virginia Paranormal Investigations, and tonight we're out here in the mountains of Russell County, Virginia, where on this old family plot of land there have been some strange things that have been seen in the night and some very strange sounds that have been heard out there. And I'm going to turn you over to Linda. She's going to tell you a little bit about some of the activity that's been experienced on this land. But we're going to be camping out here tonight all night and looking for everything from cryptozoological creatures to some spirits that may linger throughout these mountains.
So the woman that owns this land and her family have experienced quite a few things over the years that they have come up here to camp. And it's a barren piece of land, completely barren, only virgin timber up here. Beautiful, beautiful area. But they have heard wood knocks coming from down in this little ravine off to our left. At one point, she had been sleeping here in a tent, and they were by the fire, and something started flying around the campsite. She said about 25 miles an hour, and she described it as something large and black, about the size of a beach ball. So that really freaked them out. They weren't sure what to think about that. They've also heard some strange screams that seem to come off the mountain next door, next to this one. And they sound like a woman wailing, maybe in agony or in pain. And she said it sounds like, it's a sound that really just makes you very sad, makes you very upset, because it's not obviously screaming from people yelling and having fun. This is a scream of pain and agony, and obviously not good, whatever it is. But it seems to scream when they've been talking and laughing and carrying on, but when they stay silent, they don't hear it anymore. So kind of interesting. There's been quite a few other little bits and tidbits of activity here and there, but we're really hoping tonight that we can at least hear some wood knocks or maybe hear the scream coming off the next mountain.
Not too sure either, to be honest with you.
That kind of scares me, yeah.
They're
That's why I
supposedly
just get
very
the ones that you just
I
pull
think
up.
so too. I honestly think that whatever I saw a few weeks
So what
ago,
are we doing here, Megan?
I have
it's
no
like it
idea.
went invisible. I think they can go.
Hopefully I'll have a tent in a minute.
I don't know.
People have said that. I've always kind of thought that
There's
maybe
another
it's
black thing over there.
Like they say gigantic.
I don't know if it goes over there,
left
but-
over from,
My thoughts so
Stakes are over
far
there. Can
is
you
that we're out in the
grab
middle
'em?
of nowhere. There's no other people. We didn't see really any houses on the way up here. So even when we were at Hidden Valley, sometimes there would be cars that would pull up to the parking lot that would be far away from our camp. But here, there's absolutely no other people. The only people that we can hear are maybe 20, 30 miles down that way that are strip mining, and you can hear that motor going throughout the night. But it's kind of interesting being out here on our own. We always talked about just being put in a place with no safety net, no able to get out of there in a quick pinch. So I think it's pretty cool that we'll be out here in the wilderness, just left up to nature. It could be anything from Bigfoot to ghosts to aliens, anything. So I think that's pretty cool.
So we're here, we have our base station set up on this table out here where we have our lantern and all our equipment spread out. And what Will and I are about to do, of course, one of the reports involve a woman that kind of does this mournful cry throughout the woods at various times, and it seems to come from a distant mountain.
So when we first come in, where we first pulled up, the client claimed that she was out there with her dog, and off in another mountain, she could hear what sounds like a woman crying out a sorrowful cry, the type of cry that makes you want to cry.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is we're going to walk over to there now with our equipment. We'll do a spirit box session. We'll do an EVP session. See if we can be able to find out exactly what the woman wants, what she's looking for, and what happened to her. And to see if we can maybe get her voice, or if anyone else is up here in these mountains.
That's right. And we're hoping, too, this is a cool chance to try the spirit box, because one of the theories is, one of the things I've heard is that this won't only pick up spirits that are right there in the area, but because it's radio frequencies that are coming in, distant spirits can be picked up on these radio frequencies. So it'd be interesting to see what comes through that spirit box.
It's very interesting.
But it's quite a hike up there. We're going to walk up this dark path, and it's pitch black. So we'll be listening for some strange sounds along the way as we're walking through the woods.
It's about a 10-15 minute walk both ways.
Right.
So on the way up there, what I like to do is keep my voice recorder going, just in case we're walking along, we happen to hear a scream, we happen to hear a noise in the woods, or anything that they've been saying that they've heard. We can be able to capture that in real time. So my name is Will.
I'm Jeff.
And we are walking over to where we first pulled up, and then we'll head over to that grave site that's over there. So we won't be asking any questions. The whole point of this is just to keep it on in case we happen to hear anything as we're walking. We can be able to go back and review it. So this isn't something that I'm going to necessarily listen to for any EVPs.
You hear all kind of movement out in those woods.
You do.
And surprisingly, some of it, it's those giant beetles.
Those things are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear them like over on this tree. Alright, so we made it to where the client claimed to have heard the woman screaming. So you want to go ahead and do the spirit box session?
Let's do it. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Will.
We don't mean to impose by any means. We're here to find out who the woman is. We've heard your cries, or we've heard of your cries out in the woods. And we're here to find out if there's anything we can do to help you. We have this little box down here with the red light on it. And if you can use that to communicate with us, could you try telling us your name, please?
Do you know who Janet is? Something.
Sound like a male's voice.
If you know who Janet is, can you repeat her name for me, please?
We also have this little device with a red light on top of it. If you're here with us right now, and you can come near that device, it will light up and let us know that you're here. Can you reach out and touch that for us, please? What was that?
I heard that.
What did it sound like to you?
It sounded like a pop. What'd you hear?
I wasn't sure if it came from the spirit box.
I thought it was like over here in this direction.
Are you lost?
In the name of God, why are you here? What is it that you would like to tell us?
Is there a headstone around here with your name on it? That might have been radio chatter.
Maybe.
It sounded like it said say again,
Yeah, I heard that.
but it did sound like,
Radio chatter.
yeah.
We said, is there a headstone around here with your name on it? So the reason why we're here is because we want to talk to you, and we want you to know that you can talk to us. Tell us the reason why you're here. We're listening. That was radio chatter. Do you know the screaming woman? Do you know the creature with the big wings? So I gotta say, we just did a spirit box session in which all the voices that you could hear come across sounded like radio chatter. So we would kind of dismiss that as anything paranormal. But what Jeff and I did feel was, over my right shoulder, it felt like as if someone was breathing down the back of my neck. Like you could feel the warmth of another person right next to me. And then Jeff sort of felt the same thing over his side. Since we've been out here, it kind of feels like we're being watched. It feels like there's someone just over our shoulder kind of being right next to us. I've had that feeling ever since we started this, actually. We heard something at one point over what seemed like Jeff's left shoulder. Something kind of in the woods sounded like a pop. It didn't sound like it came from the spirit box.
I gotta say, when I was standing here looking through the camera, I had this intense feeling, which I don't normally have, but I felt that somebody was standing behind me waiting for me to turn around and look at them. Almost like on investigations when I'm recording and another investigator walks in the room and they're waiting to tell me something, but they're waiting patiently till I finish recording. That's what it felt like I was gonna turn around and see somebody standing there, but I didn't. Definitely an eerie feeling. I don't know if it's my mind playing tricks on me because of the darkness. Without this light, I mean, it is complete darkness. We went into night mode. Will had his flashlight on just to scan because you have this spirit box going. You can't really hear a lot that's going on around you, and you certainly can't see anything within an arm's reach from your face. So we kept that flashlight just kind of scanning the tree line around us, making sure Big Boo Boo wasn't coming up out of the woods hungry. You know, we hadn't cooked any food yet, so we didn't have anything to feed him except for ourselves. But what we're going to do now is up this, there's a hill to my left which you can't see because it's so dark out here. Up this hill, there's a cemetery. We're going to go up there and we're going to try an EVP session up there in the cemetery. A lot of people say this isn't a good idea unless you know what you're doing, because I've heard a lot of stories of people bringing something back with them from the graveyard when they went in there doing an EVP session. Our reason for doing that isn't just to see if anyone up there wants to talk. It's to try to find out the source of this woman who sounds so mournful and see if there's any way we can help her spirit rest.
So we don't know where this cemetery is, so Jeff and I are just kind of walking in the darkness blind.
Right.
To find a cemetery. They're just going to walk up and just see gravestones.
We heard that it's up here. I believe he said go up to the right, didn't he?
I think they're right, yeah.
So it doesn't look like a very well-traveled path, I should say. So I'm not sure what to expect when we get to this graveyard. I've been surprised because a lot of the ones we've seen throughout the woods here have been newer, or they've seemed newer. But not the stereotype. This does look like your typical haunted trail right here.
Jeez.
I mean, I think I saw this on an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Pretty sure. Look how tall this grass is. So earlier when I said I like to keep the recorder on, even though we're not talking, just in case we hear something and then I can go back and listen to it again. Well, now that we've already done one spirit box session, we have now basically given the right to any spirits to follow us and talk to us now. So at any point they could be talking to us and we can't hear them. So it's a little creepy.
That is a little bit unsettling.
Yeah. So now they are probably following us, and they're going to the next place that we are.
And this path keeps getting better.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm being watched.
Wow. It is pretty well overgrown.
But like you were saying, it's still a very modern grave site.
Yeah, like I'm seeing graves from 2007.
$1969 or 1989.
Yeah, not incredibly old.
All within the past 30 or 40 years. No later.
All right, I'm going to turn out this bright light. This time we're going to be standing in the darkness, but we'll be able to hear what's going on around us.
Yes. So
I don't know if that's going to be worse or better.
Well, if that's any indication, probably be better.
All right, we already got activity. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Will.
If you would like me to turn this light out, could you make that light up again just like you did? Okay. I'm just going to ask a question, a confirming question. If you could turn that off for us, please. If you'd like us to leave this light on, could you light that up like you just did?
Okay.
I guess it's light out. We've turned the light out. We're here trying to find out about a woman that's been heard crying throughout the woods. Have you heard this woman's cries? If you have, could you light that up for us?
And just to make sure that you're still able to work that light, if you have not heard the lady scream or cry, can you please turn that light to green for us? If you are still here, could you turn that light from red to green for us?
If you would like us to leave, could you turn that to green for us? If you don't want to talk to us. We have another means that you may be able to use to communicate with us. It's this device that Will is holding in his hand, and that will record your voice. It's a voice recorder. Could you try speaking into that and telling us your name?
Right behind us, there's a flashing light as if it was like lightning going off, but there's not a cloud in the sky. And I want to point out to the people that are watching, we've put that REM pod in with grass and a bunch of leaves and bushes before, and they don't make it go off.
That's right.
So yes, it is sitting in tall grass, but that doesn't make it go off. Was that you that shined a bright light over us?
I saw that flash too. Behind us.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it could be lightning, like, because if we're looking out across the valley, maybe it's heat lightning.
Some clouds or something like that
Yeah,
off in the distance.
or even just heat lightning from the humidity.
Because we are really high up, so we can see for miles.
Yeah, and it's changing. Like the humidity, it's not as humid as it was when we first got here.
Right.
There it was again.
Yeah. That's what it's got to be. So I would like to ask, and again, my name is Will and this is Jeff. I would like to ask, we're here with someone named Janet. She's brought us here. She asked us to come and speak to you and to find out who the screaming woman is around in these mountains. So, if you're related to Janet, could you please tell us in the voice recorder, or make that light turn from red to green?
I did hear something off in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Almost sounded like a dog.
Yeah, it sounded off in that direction to me. Do you know of a very tall and hairy man or creature wandering these mountains? Do you know if there is a witch in these mountains? So we have the opportunity for you to be able to speak to us and for anyone to be able to hear you. We have a video camera that you can step in front of and we can be able to see you. We have this light right here. If you touch it, it'll let us know that you're here. And what I'm holding in my hand, you can speak into it, we can hear you. So now's the time. If you ever wanted to tell anyone anything, let us know now.
I saw that flash of light behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure the camera picked it up. Now, there is lightning. I did see lightning for sure. And it's right through these trees, kind of right where I'm pointing there. But the other two, they were very concentrated. Could have been lightning as well, but much brighter because when the lightning struck, it lit up the clouds. The other two, they were very bright flashes, but they seemed like they were way across on a distant mountain. And I'm wondering if it's some, like I said, just lightning, just kind of showing different.
Yeah, that's probably it. If the feeling of being watched and like someone's over your shoulder is related to the ions in the air.
That could be. This REM pod's still going off though. And I have to say, when we first came up here and sat it down, there was a bit of change in temperature maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little change in pressure. But it's still going off. It's had plenty of time to acclimate.
Correct.
Usually it's when we first set it down, if it's something related to the humidity or to the pressure, when we first set it down in that location, it'll go off and then it won't do it again.
Right.
This is still going off, and it's at random. It's not responding to our questions. Unless there's an extreme delay. Heard that.
It's off to my right.
Could have been one of them big beetles.
No, it wasn't the beetle. Now that was a flashing red. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one. I had the camera pointing kind of in your direction, so it might have picked it up.
It was in this direction that I have the light, and between those trees, I saw a white flash, and then I saw a red flash.
I wonder if it's on one of those strip mining things that they have over there.
Possibly. Before we leave, I want to ask one last question. What's going to happen to us tonight? When we get back, I'll take a second to go ahead and listen to what we've recorded so far. The reason why we do that is because if we do get any sort of intelligent response to the questions that we've asked, we can be able to come back and ask follow-up questions. So we can actually interact with the spirit, which, say we get an intelligent response. We come back and we ask the follow-up question, and they answer back intelligently again to the follow-up question. That really helps out with being able to show to skeptics, hey, you know, spirits can be able to interact intelligently with questions, and it's not just something that comes out of the white noise or a sound that you can mistake as a certain word. The fact that you could be able to get it multiple times as if you're having a conversation with someone else is something that is incredibly hard to do. And to find an intelligent haunting is really difficult, especially with all the different places that we've been to. But because it is so rare, if you are able to find a place like this, then I'm glad that we're here all night, because then we have all night to talk to these spirits and to give them an outlet and someone to be able to speak with. Because these are people that have been gone a while, and they now have the opportunity to be able to speak to someone. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. And well, like you said, those guiding questions too. You know, if we get an answer and go home, we're 6 hours away from here, we can't easily come back and
Right.
and ask. Or if it tells us, you know, he or she tells us what they need, how they need help, we're then 6 hours away and we can't help. But if we can find out an answer right now, what can we do to help you, we might be able to come back and give them some kind of closure.
Right, because we're not only here for the client and to answer their questions, but also to help out the spirits and kind of be their guide, their mediator between the other side and now.
Well, we're coming down the hill and we heard what almost sounded like a hum. That's the best way I could describe it. I'm not sure it had any kind of melody to it. It was just kind of like a low hum, like somebody was standing here just humming. Is that what you heard? How would you say it?
I heard that, and also as we were kind of coming down the hill, I also heard a woman's voice as if it was past the bottom, out in the woods a little bit in this direction.
And you have your recorder going too.
I do.
So that's another point as to why we want to keep these recorders going as we're walking. Because if we hear something like that, we don't have the camera going all the time. We want to get as much evidence as we can. So an interesting thing, when we were walking down the path from the graveyard and coming back towards our camp, by the cars, we saw what looked like a flashlight.
Yeah.
It was shining kind of towards us, like it was around the car, maybe someone getting something out of the car. But we came back down here to the camp, and apparently no one had been near the car within the past 30 minutes.
No, we saw the light at the campsite, and then we saw a light at the car. When we finally got around to the car, that light was gone, and the only other light was the light at the campsite.
Absolutely. Now, right in this area, we're in the area where our tents are and stuff, and this is where they've reported seeing this dark figure.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to set up the REM pod, run the spirit box, and see if we can get any response from right here in our own campsite. Now, how interesting is that going to be if you find out there's something right here behind your tent?
I'm going to sleep well tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Will.
You can say your name.
I'm Janet.
Megan.
And we'd like to know if there's anybody else here with us right now. If there is, could you please try to tell us your name?
Are you scared to come down here? It's Janet.
Earlier, I think you were talking to us near the cemetery and near where we first came in. Can you come around us and talk to us again? We heard you, and I want you to know that we can hear you. What do you want to tell us?
Is there a reason that you want us to stay out of the cemetery?
Can you talk to us more? Set a whistle? None of these devices will hurt you.
You coming?
It's kind of fun to play with. If you get near this red light, it'll turn green. Or yellow. Or all sorts of colors. Can you do that? It's kind of fun.
Can you name one of the people that's here in this circle?
Did you say Janet?
Male voice.
That was that same sound that came over your voice in the recording.
That's right. Yeah.
So being that we're out in Russell County, in the western part of Virginia, we always come out here thinking about Bigfoot. And you may have situations like this where you have spirits and then you have Bigfoot. But when you're out in an area like this where it's so desolate, I mean, we were riding up this road for miles and there were no houses around you couldn't see anything. It was just trees and trees and trees and trees. And you think about how easy it is for Bigfoot to hide in a situation like this. And there's nothing out here, there's no reason why a Bigfoot couldn't stay hidden for many, many years out in this kind of environment. And this is why we're out here tonight, not only because of the spirits that we have heard reports of out here, but also because the Bigfoots, the reports kind of allude to sort of a Bigfoot situation out here in this area, tree knocks and things of that nature. And we find it fascinating to sit here and try to listen to the surrounding, quiet and try to hear sort of noises that come out of the surrounding woods. And they're very elusive. They supposedly have the ability to disappear right in front of your eyes. And this is one of the reports from just a couple of weeks ago. They saw something out here. She described it as having sort of a desert camouflage on, sort of a reddish brown mottled appearance to it. And it sort of stepped behind a piece of machinery and disappeared. And it's, unlikely that it was a hunter. It's not hunting season. So not real sure who it would have been if it was a living person. But because of the reports of the tree knocks and things that have happened in the past, we felt like it was a good possibility that this could have been some sort of Bigfoot. And you sit here, you think about the fact that this thing could be right on the outskirts of your camp. It could have snuck up without you hearing it. And it could be sitting here watching us at this very moment, and we would not know it. Now, she also had a trail cam video that she showed us that was a little bit unsettling, I have to say, because it was something that appeared very white and very bright in front of this trail cam, and it was moving. And you could see knuckles wrapped around something that looked like a chunk of wood or a brick or something in its hand, and it was continuously looked like it was smashing this thing down again and again and again. And we almost wondered, because of the fact that the trail cam was about 9 feet up in the air, we almost wondered if this could have been a Bigfoot sort of showing itself on the trail cam. Unfortunately, it was so close to the trail cam that it only showed up as white because the IR light was sort of reflecting off of it. And but we can't know for sure what this thing was. Whatever we can discern from this video is that it seemed very violent. It was a little bit unsettling, and we're still not quite sure what to make of it. But Bigfoot or not, it's certainly an interesting section of woods to be camping out in.
So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt, we found this decent sized branch here, we're going to attempt to do a wood knock to see if we get any response. I'm going to bang this branch against that tree right there. And I'm not sure how loud of a knock this is going to make, if it's going to be sufficient. But we're going to try it. Might want to stand back just a little bit in case this thing breaks. But here we go.
My initial response is that this is not going to be a big enough branch.
All right, let's hear here.
Ooh.
3, 2, 3.
3.
3. No, wait. What? Oh, there was something. Did you hear that?
Did you hear anything?
Yeah.
Did you?
Do it over there.
Over here?
Yeah, 3 in a row.
That's what it always
Like
does.
fast or slow, like I did last
You
time?
did, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, like you did.
Maybe you ought to do call.
Do a call?
Have you ever heard anything like it? You said your sister has
heard
heard
it
something
yelling.
out here that she thought was a Bigfoot call? Did she ever describe it?
Well, I played her several videos of mountain lion, bobcats. And
Yeah.
Stuff, but she says that's not what she heard.
I wonder, because, you know, it seems like different Bigfoot in different regions yell in different ways. Some of them it's like more like a whoop, and some of them it's more like a, you know, a screech, or, you know, I kind of wonder what area we're in as far as the
What it would sound
Bigfoot
like.
calls would sound like.
Can you do the call?
I can attempt it. All right. So let's try a
Try a whoop.
whoop.
Usually we get them back.
Somebody down on another side of the mountain is freaking out right now.
Hey, nobody down there. There's nobody here.
Yeah, no one can hear that. No one can hear you if you
Either.
scream up here.
You're
That's unsettling. That's a little unsettling.
Wow, we usually
Well, we
get them
tried
back.
the wood knock.
Go up there and try it.
We tried the whoop.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that? What was that? There was something.
What is that?
What is that?
What is still going on?
You hear that, right?
Yeah.
Listen. Stop, listen.
What was that?
What was that?
I don't know. But it might have been over here.
It didn't sound like dogs.
It might have been in response to the Bigfoot call.
It definitely was, because we haven't heard
sounded
that
like
all
people.
night.
Let's try it one more
It
time.
sounds like laughing also.
Yeah, like a whole bunch of people
A
talking.
bunch of laughing hyenas down there.
Yeah.
Still going on.
No, it stopped.
Usually when we do that, we get like a screeching loud metal sound. This is different because it likes you.
I hear a drumming sound though that I didn't hear before.
What?
Oh yeah.
Are you, you're not talking about the motor running?
No, it's like dudum, 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 dudum. Hear that?
Yeah, it's probably Native American spirits.
Native American spirits? You didn't mention
Hey,
those.
girl.
Are they up here
My
too?
grandma's a Cherokee. I'm half.
There's Cherokee up here. There's Cherokee graves up here.
Let's try again.
So calm.
Do you hear that drumming?
No, I don't.
I really hope the camera's picking that up.
I don't hear any drumming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think I hear it. I just can't imagine what that noise was. You know Will is cussing us right now.
Will's trying to sleep.
He's trying to sleep. And we're doing Bigfoot calls out here outside his tent. He's missing the fun.
He is.
That was weird.
That was some strange stuff. I really hope the camera picked it up, but there
Yeah.
were some sounds out there in the woods
Oh, hell yeah.
that seemed to be in response to that call.
Right.
Let's try one more time.
One more time, because it seemed to respond after 3.
That's him.
Oh. I heard a noise over there. I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
Try it now. Now go in this direction. I hear noises coming out of the woods like movement,
Yeah.
like footsteps, movement.
I've been
What's-
hearing that all night.
What's creepy about it is he could be all around us. You
He
know,
could
they
be.
could be all around us.
They really
Yeah.
could, and you wouldn't
We'd
know.
never know.
You
No.
never, I think it can go invisible.
Like even when I went to pee, he could be right there.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
It is creepy.
Those people talking, though.
What people talking?
No, before.
Oh yeah, that noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drumming was weird.
Yeah.
All those,
like-
it sounded like people talking.
Like a pack of hinds.
Almost like a laughing.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to try the spirit box session up here in the cemetery.
Let's take this.
We came back and we brought this device that perhaps you may be able to use to communicate with us. I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda.
I'm Megan.
Janet.
And you may remember I was here before.
Wait,
And-
what'd you say your name was?
I said I was here before, and we remember that we got some responses. We've got some possible responses from somebody up here, and I brought this device back up that you may be able to use to communicate with us. Could you try telling us your name?
Carol, is that a family name?
Okay, we got the REM pod going off.
No?
My mom's Carol.
And once again, we're hearing those sounds out there in the woods, which is a little harder to hear with the spirit box. But it's the same direction as before. We believe that last time we were here, someone may have told us to get out. And before we leave, we just wanted to know why. Why we should get out. Is it for our own safety? Is someone hurting you? Someone keeping you here? Or do you just not want us here? If you just don't want us here, could you make that device, could you turn that red light to green by coming near it again like you did before? If you're worried for our safety, can you turn that to green like you did before? If someone is hurting you or keeping you here, and you need help, can you turn that to green like you did before? If you're not willing to answer any more questions and you just want us to leave for any reason, can you make that light turn green for us by coming near that device, please?
Do you belong to this land, or do you belong to this graveyard because your remains are here? And if your remains are here, why are you still here? People care about you and want to see you go to the other side. They don't want to see you stuck on this piece of land. Tell us who you are and why you're here. We can help you.
REM pod again.
We have a camera. A camera that records pictures. On this camera, we've recorded images of someone that looked like they're beating something or hitting something. It looks as if this person has something in their hand.
That is so interesting that of all the places we set this REM pod tonight, this is the only place
Right.
that it goes off.
Was that picture that we caught on that camera, was it a creature? Like a Bigfoot? Thank you.
That was a pretty solid green right there.
Yeah.
Are we in danger here of whatever you're trying to warn me about, or should I not come here? It's Janet. You know me. Am I in danger here? Is there something I should be afraid of?
If they're in danger, try to light that up. Make it turn yellow or green. Yeah, see, I don't think you're in danger at all.
If they're not in danger, if they're perfectly safe, this is the last question we have for you. If they're perfectly safe here and you're okay with them, can you light that up to green, please?
There you
Look
go.
at that.
Look at that.
That's confirmation right there.
It is.
That
There's nothing that's going to hurt you up here.
there's nothing that's going to hurt you up here. I mean, this thing has been responding pretty good.
Yeah, it really has.
Thank you for talking to us.
That was a direct response,
It
too.
was.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
Thank you
That
so
was
much
pretty
for
cool.
talking to
I
us.
have to say that's interesting is when we came up to this graveyard before and now, we've gotten some consistent responses with the REM pod. Both times we asked if whoever's here knows anything about this woman, knows who she is or has heard her, and both times it's remained silent. It hasn't lit up. You know, so we came up here this time and it seemed to be lighting up in direct response to our questions.
Right.
And we'd even ask confirmation questions.
Yeah.
We'd ask the question in a different way, and it didn't seem to trick the device at all. It didn't seem like it was random. So we're getting some pretty interesting responses. And like I said before, what's interesting is all the places we set this REM pod tonight, here, down at the campsite, back at the green spot 2 different times, it didn't go off anywhere else except for here. Every time we brought it up to this graveyard, this is where something has seemed to communicate with us.
Yeah.
When I was, it was probably around the time that y'all were getting ready to go to bed, but I felt like there was a whole bunch of noise off to the left of my tent, down into the side over here. Heard a whole bunch of noises, and then like I had weird dreams too. So it had to do with some of the stuff that we were doing up here and everything, and I was like seeing a bunch of people and everything. So
anything, and it's always neat just to look into the dreams and stuff like that. Anything that you remember happening in any of the dreams,
yeah,
like
it was because I was hearing the noises off to the left. I saw like faces on the trees, as if like the trees were watching us, I guess.
kind of like the Wizard
out
of
the dark.
Oz.
Yeah, sort of. But yeah, it was like a whole bunch of faces down here in the ravine, just looking at us, just watching us all night.
That's kind of eerie.
Yeah, so that's what I dreamt about.
Yeah,
Slept well, but that's what I dreamt.
that's something.
Yeah.
So I thought it was actually pretty cool being able to kind of, walk around in the woods and in this graveyard nearby. And it's not every day that you get to come camping with a graveyard close enough to be able to go and investigate. And it was also cool that setting down the REM pod, we started getting responses to our questions. And a little worried about ticks this morning, and think I'm going to have to check myself pretty good for them because we were walking through the grass. It's pretty high, but it was overall a very good evening, very interesting.
Welcome to the evidence room. This was definitely a unique expedition.
Yes.
Heading up to this mountain, and I have to tell you, when we went into this town for one, I believe it was Cleveland,
Right.
was in the middle of nowhere, Cleveland, Virginia, just for clarification.
Yeah.
There was a handy mart. That was pretty much the only thing in town where we could have a point to meet at.
Right.
So we met at this handy mart, and the property owners, we followed them up to the property. We started going down these windy roads,
Yeah.
and these roads got more and more desolate, started going up the mountain.
Yeah.
Soon they became gravel roads.
Yeah.
And shortly after, they became dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
Another 35, 40 minutes later, after heading out of this town that's in the middle of nowhere, we're really in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
What was your
Definitely.
first impressions when getting up there to this property?
Well, I have to say, right before we got to the property, as I'm driving up there, I'm noticing my cell signal going in and out. And being that we had just talked about the client having seen this man, she said either he was a man in some sort of hunting garb or ghillie suit or something, or it was a Bigfoot out there recently, as recent as a week before that. We were starting to get a little bit nervous. So what I was doing was taking screenshots of my last known location and sending them to my daughter so that if I died out there, so she might have some hope of finding me, of knowing where we were. It was that desolate. It was like nothing around except for a strip mine for miles. Really.
Right.
So
right.
there was a little bit of a creep factor because of that, because you knew that you were out in the middle of nowhere up on top of this mountain, and which we actually love that sort of thing anyways.
We
But,
do. Off the grid completely.
Right.
I mean, no cell service.
yeah,
Nothing.
Yeah, it was a luxury to have an outhouse at the campsite, but it was really kind of cool because you were going up there knowing that you have the possibility of ghosts, the possibility of Bigfoot, and God knows what else. I mean, she said she described this thing that looked like a giant black bird that circled the campsite multiple times.
Right.
Who knows what that is? You know, I mean, it obviously wasn't something that was normal, like when the way she described it. This thing was not normal. So all kinds of things out there. So we were really kind of excited and at the same time a little bit nervous, a little bit scared. So kind of a little conglomeration of different emotions there.
That's right. Strip mining was going on around in the surrounding mountains.
Yes,
and you
unfortunately.
could hear this engine, and it was some 20, 30 miles away.
Right.
But you could still hear it in the background.
Yeah.
Now, the land itself was owned by the family, passed down from generation to generation since the 1700s.
Yes.
So it's very old, very protected land.
Right.
And also there's several family plots, grave sites that were
Yes.
scattered throughout this land,
Right.
which made it more interesting,
Oh, yeah.
especially with the spirit that's out there, the woman that's been heard.
Mm-hmm.
Is her
Yeah.
body buried in one of these graveyards?
Yeah.
One of the theories was that perhaps someone that she loved was buried in another graveyard and she was buried somewhere away from them,
Right.
and she was trying to get back to them.
Yeah.
Now, out of all the investigating we did, there were definitely some interesting points, and we'll touch on those. But before we do that, let's play a couple of audio clips.
Okay.
And these are audio clips. Practically the only audio evidence we got, at least from EVP sessions, from Spirit Box sessions,
Right.
was on our walk up to that old graveyard and at that old graveyard where we did that Spirit Box session. So let's head over to the computer and listen to what we got. So these audio clips were from Will's recorder. And this was during the Spirit Box session. Now I got to say, this was actually at the foot of the hill that was going up to the graveyard. Before we actually went up to the graveyard, we stopped in this grassy area where they had had some experiences. They've heard the sounds of the wood knocks.
Right.
They've also heard this ghost lady wailing in the woods.
Yeah.
So we stopped there and we ran the Spirit Box. This first clip that we're going to play, we can't decipher what is being said, but I'm going to tell you what you're listening for. The Spirit Box is going, and what Will picked up, what Will caught when he reviewed this audio, was a voice that is under his voice. So you hear somebody else talking while he's talking, and indeed it's not me. So let's go ahead and play that clip.
Do you know who Janet is?
So I definitely hear the voice underneath his, and then another little voice at the end. And given the fact that we are so far out in the middle of nowhere, I find it interesting that anything came through the Spirit Box at all. It kind of makes me more inclined to believe this is perhaps something paranormal rather than, you know, a radio station coming through. We weren't picking up any radio stations at all from what I can remember out there. There was nothing.
That's true. I do have to say, there were some things, and looking back, like during the course of the investigation, we thought, that's radio chatter. But they're really, you're right, now that you mention that,
Yeah.
It's almost more paranormal that we would pick up a radio station up there
Right.
than we would pick up a spirit talking through that radio.
That's right.
So, looking back on that, there were a lot of things that we threw out,
Yeah.
but this was one that we definitely found interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the next clip, this was up in the graveyard. And Will starts to ask a question. Shortly after he stops talking, you'll hear that response. And I don't believe that response needs any introduction. We'll let you listen to it and see if you hear the same thing we did.
We want to talk to you, and we want you to know.
So shortly after Will says, we want to talk to you, and we want you to know, you'll hear a little bit of a pause, and then you'll hear a voice, sounds like a female's voice to me.
Right, it does.
That says no.
No.
And that's interesting.
It is.
Does this woman not want us to talk to her?
Right.
But kind of the vibe I got, and this is not a psychic, I'm not a psychic by any means.
Yeah.
But just my gut feeling was that there was interaction we were getting there.
Right.
And it was almost somebody telling us to leave, but not because they didn't want us to be there, but because they were more concerned with our safety. I felt they were kind of looking out for us. And it was weird. It was just kind of a feeling that I got.
Feeling. Yeah.
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 We got one more clip. Now this clip is when Will and I were walking back down from the cemetery. And he kept his recorder going. Now, of course, you're going to hear a lot of leaves rustling and everything else. This was not an EVP session. He just kept the recorder going just in case we heard something along the walk.
Right.
We could go back and review it. Now, indeed, when we were walking down this hill, we heard what sounded like a woman humming. This humming was not picked up on the audio recorder at all. But right when we heard that hum, you hear a whisper come across. And listen to that whisper. See if you can determine what it says. It's fairly close to the beginning of the clip here. Right before I say, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Sound like a voice, like a... Yeah. So Linda took this clip, took it into Audacity, and you were able to decipher what that whisper said.
Yes, I was. It sounded to me like, again, kind of a female voice, and it sounded like it said, I'm scared. And it was pretty discernible.
It was.
Yeah, even without big headphones.
Absolutely. So some interesting audio clips.
Definitely.
Now we're going to take this and, of course, put it together with some of the evidence we got, just to recap.
Right.
Up in the graveyard was the only place that REM pod was going off.
It was.
And it was going off. Something was interacting with it the whole time that we were up there. There's one more piece of evidence that we picked up that was pretty interesting.
Yes.
When we were going through the pictures. When we take pictures, we usually try to take 3 at a time. At least 2 at a time from the same angle.
Right.
So you know if there's something in one picture and not in the next, you know that there's something there
Right. Exactly.
that wasn't there before, or vice versa. When we were up in that graveyard, the same place where we picked up most of the activity, I took 3 pictures. And I'm going to show you these 3 pictures right now. Now, if you notice, in the first picture that I took, there seems to be some sort of a misty figure over to the left of the picture.
Right.
The next 2 pictures, it's gone.
Right.
Now, I've seen this happen before where it's
Oh, yeah.
almost like you get there, you take the picture,
Yeah.
you catch something unexpected, and it realizes, oh no, I'm on film, and
And disappears.
yeah, it dips out for the
Right.
rest of the pictures. It's gone because for some reason
Yeah.
they don't
wanna
want to
be
be
seen.
seen.
Right.
Right. So this is definitely an interesting set of pictures that we got here, and
is.
perhaps adding to the possible evidence of the paranormal activity out here at this graveyard.
Right.
Also, when we did that whoop, the Bigfoot yell,
Yeah.
there were some strange sounds that were heard out in those woods.
Right.
Sounded almost like a I don't know how to describe it, like a bunch of birds or something like that screaming is
Yeah.
what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
Of course, we all hear tones different, and
I know.
it did pick up on the video.
It did. To me, it like I would say that it was most likely a pack of coyotes. Now, That being said, I've heard people say that there are not actually an abundant amount of coyotes left in the Appalachians anymore. But also the fact that these coyotes kind of made this noise all of a sudden when we made that wood knock is kind of strange, because we did wood knocks after that and
Right.
never heard that sound again.
Right.
So if it was our wood knock that was kind of stirring them up, you would think that it would have stirred them up again at some point through the night. You would have heard these things, these coyotes again off in the distance. So that's kind of what was strange again, about it, and the fact that everybody, like you said, kind of heard it differently.
Right.
You know, it wasn't necessarily like an animal sound. At some points, it almost sounded like it was bordering on it, like a group of women kind of wailing and
It did.
hollering, and it was
It
really
did.
creepy.
So the question is, if this was an animal sound, could this, from the right side of the mountain or the right area, be misconstrued as a woman wailing in the night?
It could, yeah. Although it did sound like multiple women.
It did.
If anything.
It sounded
was
like a
multiple.
bunch.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what the client described was just one single
solitary
voice of a
woman.
female and
Yeah.
yelling and wailing. So
And also, I'd like to point out what was interesting was the drums that were accompanied by that.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like drums.
Yes.
Now, of course, I'm thinking, okay, we got this strip mining operation going on in the
Right.
distance. We can hear that motor running.
yeah.
I've been thrown off by these drums before in Williamsburg, where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, the British are coming, and it's actually a generator that's making that
Yes.
tududum, tududum, tududum.
Yes.
But it only happened after I did that
Right.
call.
We never heard it again.
Didn't hear it again, didn't hear it before that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the resident, she pointed out, she said, there's actually Native American spirits that have been
Oh, yes.
heard and seen up here as well.
Yeah, it's Cherokee country.
Right.
Yeah.
Put that, the drums, together with what we heard.
Right.
Native American spirits.
Yes.
Perhaps.
Could be.
I don't know. We were able to give her closure. We put that REM pod down in the graveyard, and we got it to the point where, like you saw in the video, it seemed to be responding to some of our, and we even,
Right.
when we ask a question, sometimes we'll restate the question in a different way.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, see if we get the same answer, if it's just
Yeah.
kind of random. So we got our confirmation,
Right.
and then we asked, are you okay with her being here? As soon as we asked that, it lit up,
Yeah.
and she felt comfortable. She felt that she
Right.
could once again use that land at her leisure and
Absolutely.
not have to worry about there being something there that doesn't want her there.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to give that closure
It is.
in the end. And a lot of people, they're okay with these spirits.
Right.
Of course, they're okay with the Bigfoot. We're not trying to move Bigfoot out of his habitat. You know, we
Right.
know if we have land up there in the mountains, he may be around.
Yeah.
We want to coexist with him,
Right.
right? That's what was going on here. And she
Yeah.
was perfectly content with that.
She
She just
was.
wanted to know, is there something that we can do for this woman? Is there something that she wants?
Right.
Are they trying to push me off this land? And when she
Yeah.
was able to get that answer, they're not.
Yeah.
She was happy.
Yeah, I think she was concerned that it may have been something of a darker nature than what it actually was. And by the end of the investigation, I would have to also mention that we kind of got this feeling that perhaps the spirit of the woman that was there was could have been killed many years ago in that area, perhaps by someone. And that would certainly explain again why we heard this "I'm scared" come through the spirit box as well. But it certainly was not anything threatening, thank goodness. And I think she's going to be able to enjoy that land for many years to come.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Linda.
There's much more to see in the dark.